Why is it so important to me that Heartland is here? Why do I want Heartland to be here for others? What does Heartland give back to me? How would you answer these three questions? 5 members of our congregation have graciously agreed to share their answers to these questions with us this morning. They may answer them directly, or they may have used them just as a jumping off point. How would you answer if you were speaking to us today? For this church to exist, it depends on gifts of others, your gifts of time, your gifts of talent, and your gifts of treasure. The 3 T's: time, talent, treasure. Without your gifts, we would disappear. Our title, Giving Its Own Reward, holds true for me. As a founding member of this church, I've given her lots of time, talent, I hope, and treasure. But what a bounty I've received. It's a place to discuss race openly with members of our African American sister church, and book discussions about race. Sermons about death and dying from someone who knows a hospice chaplain. Working with high school students who forced me to clarify my own beliefs and give back their insights and love. Wisdom about poverty from a minister who runs a shelter for the poor. A chance to do funny voices when I read a children's book. A flock of friends who enrich my life. A time once a week to focus on my soul, my spiritual self, who often receives short shrift. And this is just my short list. Thanks to all of our speakers today, and thanks to all of you for your time, talent, and treasure you've already given all of us. And think about how you would answer the questions about why Heartland is important to you as you listen to our speakers tell us about their connection to our church. Speaking first is Jennifer Hill.
I have to start out by saying I never thought I would be someone who was willing to make a statement about why I enjoyed my church so much. I grew up in a large Catholic family, attending church as a child because it was required. And I honestly kind of envied those people that seemed so passionate about their church, but I just never got it. Thanks to Heartland, I understand now. As a young adult, I was spotty with my church attendance at best, but when I had kids, we started attending a Catholic church regularly because I wanted my kids to have some kind of moral compass and guide. But as they grew a little older, I became more uncomfortable with being a part of a church whose values just didn't align with mine. And I began to question if this was really what I wanted for my children. So I started to explore other options. And when we started to attend HUUC, I immediately knew that it was the place where our family belonged. My kids loved attending, which was huge. And I loved the messages that they were hearing during the Story for All Ages and during RE. And the church started as something I wanted specifically for my children, but it has turned into something important for me as well. I love listening to the variety of speakers and being able to really challenge my thinking. I love being able to hear differing views on topics from different people in the congregation. And most importantly, I love that the values and principles of the church, knowing that being a part of Heartland means treating all people with decency, respect, and love.
Thank you, Jennifer. Next is Tony Chavez.
Morning all. I guess how I'll start is in my search on how to become a better human being, I asked myself, why am I so happy and grateful to be a member of Heartland Community Church? I belong because I feel that I belong. As many of you already know, I grew up in Western Iowa in a small town of people who did not look like me or speak my birth language of Spanish. I was viewed as different, and I was treated as different, but not in a bad or mean way, but different nonetheless. My birth town of Denison, Iowa is the county seat and the largest community in a 60-mile radius. In fact, people came to my town to have fun and shop. In this town of 6,000, there were only 18 non-white residents. And these consisted of my family of 6 and 2 sets of cousins. I always knew and felt that I was different. Never had a sense that I was one of them. I graduated from high school and set off for college and explored like any college adult does. During college, I got into my head to live in a community of Hispanic people. So after graduation, this newly minted RN was off to the Rio Grande Valley in South Texas. I was excited to experience life with other Hispanic people who were like me, an American who spoke English and understood Spanish and were educated in American schools. After getting settled and starting my new profession, I came to realize that I did not fit in there either. I had a hard time making heads or tails of how these Mexican Americans thought and conducted themselves. My frame of reference was off. I did not fit in with the Anglo-Texans either. I remember a young neighbor lady talking to her friends and talking to her other white friends and says, "Tony's not like the other Mexicans, you know. He grew up in Iowa." Fortunately, South Texas was just a temporary stay before I joined the Army. In the Army, I found structure, purpose, and was giving back to my country. I felt that I belonged. I discovered that hard work and a good attitude paid big dividends. But one day, the Army will no longer need you. And one day, after serving 24 years, the Army no longer needed me. This brings me to the Heartland period of my life. The last 4 years with Heartland have been fun, challenging, and full of great memories. Heartland gives me the opportunity to belong to something bigger than myself. During our first visit to HUUC, members of Heartland embraced Susan and I and welcomed us as if we were coming home to a community that shares ideas, thoughts, and feelings. We may not agree with everything that is stated within our walls, but we know we will be heard and accepted irrespective of how we look or where we came from. During this time of COVID and national unrest has only impressed on me more how important belonging to a community that shares beliefs in open and frank the dialogue. Most importantly, Heartland gave me the opportunity to speak about what I valued. I had the privilege of leading 4 Chalice Circle services to explore what our 7 principles means to me in our community. During these services, I began to better understand and accept that Heartland is a place I belong. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tony. And now we'll hear from Stephanie Tretick.
Hi, everyone. I've always enjoyed coming to services at Heartland when visiting my family in Indianapolis. HUUC's mantra, "We bid you welcome," is a deceptively simple phrase, but very much in evidence when I've attended. People greet me. I feel comfortable, not like a visitor at all. When the COVID lockdown began a year ago, our world became foreign. All our usual activities, responses to events, natural inclinations, all had acquired sudden truncations. The world now ended at the 4 walls of our homes. And Zoom became a proper noun. My sister Noelle again invited me to attend HUUC's services, now virtually. So I tuned in. In the last 12 months, what I have missed most is physical human contact. A hug, even from a cactus, a pat on the arm. Fortunately, I'm graced with a darling cat, but I've only managed to be legally within 6 feet of other humans by scheduling a glaucoma test and getting my teeth cleaned. Getting vaccine shots will be another opportunity. That is, if I ever find an appointment slot open. Fortunately, the weeks of the past year have been delightfully punctuated by Sunday mornings at 10:30, when I turn on my laptop and peer into the camera and am greeted by smiling people holding coffee mugs, cuddling on comfortable furniture with family, tails of cats wafting through the foreground. We bid you welcome. In a single mouse click, I feel I have gained an entire marvelous family. I'm treated to thoughtful discourse, kindness, and patience. Knowing that this Sunday oasis exists makes wrinkles in the rest of my week flatten. The 4 walls of my house drop away and my world becomes broad again. For this, I thank HUUC and every one of you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Much appreciated. And next, Alice Penry.
Good morning. I answered the 3 questions quite literally. So I started with ones posed to me of why Heartland is and why is it important to me that Heartland is here. For me, Heartland is a check-in place. It's a place where I can land each week to take some time to center and to breathe and to focus on where I am right now and where I want to be. It's an opportunity to gut check myself and hold myself accountable for the intentions I've set for myself, to reflect upon the past week and to look forward to the coming one. It's a time of stillness and quiet for me in an otherwise chaotic and busy world. Heartland keeps me from getting too wrapped up into myself. It's also important to me to gain some insight into the lives of others, especially those who are different from me. Heartland allows me an opportunity to gain perspective on the struggles and the celebrations of those who might be walking a path that is different from mine. So much of our days are naturally surrounded by people who are walking a similar path as our own, and Heartland gives me an opportunity to spend a few minutes each week with people who are on different journeys. Why do I want Heartland to be here for others? One of the best things about Heartland is that it can be whatever it needs to be for any individual. The things I just described are important to me, but each person who walks through our door or for the last year logs on to our Zoom has something very specific and unique that they need. And Heartland can fill that need, whatever it is. It's completely malleable based on whatever it is that each of us is seeking. So what does Heartland give to me? Heartland gives me a mental and emotional shot in the arm each week. It boosts my mood. It increases my patience, my grace, and my level of compassion.
Thank you, Alice. And finally, Martin D'Agostino will talk to us.
Hello, everybody. Thanks very much for the opportunity to talk just a little bit about how important Heartland has been to me and how important Heartland is to me. Over the years, some of you have heard me say that I see Heartland as a beacon and a haven. I still feel that way, and I hope I always will. It's a haven because we find refuge here from the struggles of daily life and the struggles of these momentous times. In a very literal sense, it's a sanctuary. It's a haven because we find comfort here with friends who share our fundamental beliefs. in each person's worth and dignity, in a non-dogmatic quest for meaning, and in our shared responsibility as a faith community to help transform the world. Heartland is a beacon because at our best, we shine a light that others see. At our best, we light a path that helps us live more fully, more mindfully, more joyfully. At our best, we keep a lamp lit so that the fire for justice, the fire for inclusion, and the fire for sharing never dies. I'd like to tell you a short story. Last year, we opened the church doors so people could collect some of the physical items they'd won at the Heart and Hand auction. So I drove up after work on a Saturday and was almost shocked to see 6 or 8 of you inside our church where I hadn't seen any of you in forever. I was overcome. And I insisted not just on giving everyone who was there an elbow bump, but on getting some really good elbow from everyone who was there. You might say, well, Martin, you were just starved for some human connection. Fair point. But there's a further point. I am starved for your connection. I'd like to close with the short poem I wrote last fall, specifically for Heartland. I was missing you all very much, and I was missing the physical place where we all gather. I call the poem Benediction. Our physics tells us time does not exist, and distance can be cut so fine that reaching halfway to our desired end will always leave us short by half again. Yet between us now it feels as if time's yawning gap is real, and distance could be overcome if only we would ask you to our home. Alas, a virus stops us, mocks dreams of normalcy, shocks a fragile polity, and frankly, staggers us. Take heart. There is haven in community and beacon bright enough to lift a weary spirit. We quote Tertullian, hope is patience with the lamp lit.
Thanks, Martin. And thanks to all of you who spoke today. We very much appreciate your words and thoughts as we go forward with this service. There's an old church joke. Little Johnny was in church getting restless as the preacher's sermon dragged on and on and on and on. Not able to take it anymore, he leaned over to his father and whispered, "Hey, Dad, if we give him the money now, will he let us go?" That reminds me of some old church words of wisdom. There's a fine line between a long, drawn-out sermon and a hostage situation. It's interesting, if you think about that last one, it's not clear who the hostages are, but I don't want this to become a hostage situation either way, so let me cut to the chase. HUUC is starting its stewardship campaign. It is a time when we ask all of us to think about how we can contribute to our time, talent, to the congregation throughout the year. But it is the critical time when we ask all of us to pledge some of our treasure, our money, to help sustain the church. As Amy said, after this service, she will be distributing pledge forms to the different pledge units, couples, singles, and families, to allow us to do this. By the way, I'm using we and all of us and our and other group language here because Heartland UU Church, or HUUC, is made up of all of us, our members. Len and I will be making pledges with all of you. And I just wanted to remind us all that we're in this together. This year, we need to raise at least as much as we raised in funds last year. As Jennifer pointed out, the bills haven't stopped. More would be better given our increasing rent and other building expenses, which is by far the largest share of our budget. And I expect that at some point in the next few months, we will resume some form of in-person online hybrid services in the building with all its new capabilities. We will need funds for those services, for the guest speakers and the music and the heating and everything else. RE will likely need funds for their classes and to utilize our new internet capabilities. And as Jennifer put it, the list goes on. As you consider your pledges for the July 2021 to June 2022 church year, keep all of this in mind and please be generous as you can be. We need the money and we cannot survive as an independent congregation without it, let alone hope to grow. There is one last thing I want you to think about as you consider your pledge. If 2020 and the pandemic have taught us anything, it's the importance of having a liberal religious community where we can gather, virtually or in person, with others who share many values and beliefs, but who also respect and honor our individual differences and perspectives. Whether you have been a member before 2020 and the pandemic, or are new and found us during this most challenging of times, Heartland Union Church, or HUUC, with our Zoom services has been here for you. We have also learned that the challenges we face are not past, so it is important that HUUC continues to be here for all of us, members past, present, and future, once we can begin to come together in person again. If this place, this liberal religious community is important to you, show it in your pledge. Please be as generous as you can be. Giving is its own reward, but it does have benefits, its own bounty. Blessed be, peace, amen. And now